we're going to dive in a little deeper to what Hedera is up to. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is Tangem. In fact, Tangem has just put out a tweet with them launching their Hedera network tokens available now on the Tangem self-custody wallet. So you guys can, of course, now hold Hedera on there along with many others, including Nada and Sauce, all available over in the Tangem wallet. If you do want to get the wallet and get into your self-custody journey, just jump over to the Tangem website, hit that little Get Tangem button right there. You're going to get a 3-card set. Use that because it's the best backup opportunity. And this is one of the best, I think, wallets used out there from a security standpoint, but also from an ease of use. So if you're brand new to crypto and you want to start self-custody, this is one to go with. All right, let's get into it today. I want to introduce Mr. Mance Harmon, who is the co-founder over at Hedera. Great to have you back.
Hi, Paul. It's good to see you again.
Yes, so Mance, let's get into a lot of things that are happening within the Hedera ecosystem. Always we have to talk about the governing body of Hedera. And are you seeing, in terms of the council organization itself, opportunities with some of, especially with what has happened here recently around this global outage that we saw with CrowdStrike, maybe people looking at blockchain saying, hey, maybe there's another alternative here. Have you had a large amount of interest from companies around the world kind of talking about this?
I wouldn't say at this stage that we've had a lot of inflow resulting from the CrowdStrike problem. Having said that, we have talked at some length with various organizations, including the White House in the past, and some special studies that they were doing, and how you can use blockchain to harden critical infrastructure, national infrastructure, the redundancy that comes along with blockchain. And if you think of blockchain just as a database, a decentralized database, then it's possible to have high availability to the information in the database, while also having the resilience of that data being distributed in multiple locations. So if one goes down, one node goes down, everything is still available, right? I mean, this goes back to the original value proposition, multiple databases that are sold by database companies, Oracle and others, so where you can write to any given database and have that information replicated across lots of different nodes. The value proposition is the same. The difference in this case with blockchain is that you can have multiple organizations each running those nodes rather than a single organization like a CrowdStrike or a Microsoft or whomever. Exactly.
Yeah, you've got the outage that occurred. A lot of people are kind of vying for the potential of switching to decentralized and decentralization as a whole. This would be a natural, I would think, for Hedera and CrowdStrike. I mean, this would be I would think it would be a good addition to the council. Someone like that might look at this as an opportunity.
Well, so the interesting thing here is that if you want to have that kind of resiliency in a database, then you have to have an algorithm that works with databases. And this goes back to the fundamental value proposition of Hashgraph. Hashgraph literally makes it possible to create one of these standard, SQL, a SQL database in a distributed way, where the other protocols, the other algorithms out there simply don't have the properties or the performance to be able to achieve that. It is actually something that we have taken a pretty close look at going on now for a decade. Originally, we considered building a decentralized SQL database for these types of applications and problems, and it's still a good idea, frankly.
Yeah, I mentioned the name is CrowdStrike. I'm thinking, though, Cloudflare is a company that I work with some. So in looking at, and these are kind of some of the things that I see more and more dependence on the whole centralization of not only the infrastructure around what's happening on the internet, but now you're getting banking into it, medical. That surprised me. I know many medical professionals here in our area that had problems last week when this occurred. So I was surprised at the microservices that were essentially affected here, really around the world, that started to kind of bleed into so many different industries. So to your point, definitely a big one for sure. Another one I want to get into, and this was a topic that you talked about in pre-show here, and that was the Hedera Alliance. First of all, kind of explain to us a little bit about what you guys are doing, because this has maybe some tie-ins to what has been happening?
Well, in the world of crypto, we have a fundamental problem that really needs to be addressed in order for the whole industry to scale to what we hope it is. And that is that when you have an account on one of these layer 1 or layer 2 protocols, you have a key, a private key that's associated with that account. If you lose that key, you lose everything associated with that. You lose your crypto, you lose your NFTs, you lose whatever tokens that are associated with that account. And it's a problem because just about in every other aspect of life, when you have something of value, there is typically a way to recover it if you lose the keys that are associated with it. If you have passwords, password recovery, etc. But that's not true in crypto. And so what Lehman has done is designed a protocol. Lehman Baird, by the way, is my co-founder of Hedera Hashgraph and the inventor of the technology Hashgraph. Lehman invented all the tech. What Lehman's done is come up with a protocol that makes it possible for you using your phone. You have a wallet on your phone. You have keys that are embedded on the phone. If you were to lose the phone and needed to replace it, then there's a way of recovering those keys simply, seamlessly, without the pain that is typically associated with key recovery, if you can recover at all. And it works pretty simply. There will be helpers, we call them helpers, that also have a slice of the key on their computers or phones. And behind the scenes, without your involvement on a nightly basis, the phone goes and ensures that those helpers still exist and they still have the capacity to help you recover your key in the event you need to. If you need to recover the key, then you simply choose N of M. So if you have 10 helpers, perhaps you want to have 4 of them required to work with you to recover the key. Then you have redundancy in your helpers. You can go and talk to them. And there's a simple protocol, a simple process for them to work with you to recover the key. And you have that safety net that you don't otherwise have. Now, in order for this to be meaningful, you really want this technology to be used across all wallets and all protocols. You want this to be a standard for the industry. And to that end, we've started the DREC Alliance, the Decentralized Recovery Alliance, and announced the initial set of members back in May to include that list of logos that you showed there momentarily. It's Ripple and XRP Labs and Algorand and half a dozen other organizations, including, of course, Hedera is involved. And we anticipate that there will be announcements with more protocols joining the alliance in the near future as well. So we're trying to solve that problem for the industry.
I want to go over to a couple other topics. Real world asset tokenization. This is something we've been reporting on for quite some time. Is this too late for real world asset tokenization with all the advancement we've seen from other chains, or do you feel like this is still super early in the use of this technology?
Oh, well, I mean, RWA generally is still in its infancy, right? The vision hasn't even begun to be realized. That specifically being that everything that you can see and touch, everything that is manufactured is going to end up having a token twin, right? And so there are lots of categories within RWA. One of the categories today that is often talked about is tokenization of some type of fund, right? Whether it be a money market fund or something else. And of course, we've got a lot going on there with Aberdeen and BlackRock and others to sort of demonstrate that that's a possibility. There's a value proposition to people that want to trade in money market funds and that sort of thing. But, beyond that, you have real estate that is going to be addressed again, still in its infancy. Red Swan is one of the companies that is using Hedera for tokenization of commercial real estate, making it possible for investors that are not otherwise able to participate in large commercial real estate investments to be able to take a slice of that into their portfolio. and it spans, from money market funds and those kinds of instruments to real estate to fan engagement. Karate Combat is a good example. People
Yeah.
typically talk with Hedera, fan engagement, where you have rewards for participation in the league, where you can use those rewards to sort of direct the league to, bring together certain fighters if you want, and you can get rewarded more rewards in a tokenized form for betting on the outcomes of various fights. You can stake those tokens, etc. Even bigger than those will be the tokenization of products that flow through supply chains, right? And we have a major manufacturer or a major partner that has a platform that tracks the manufacture of products through supply chains, all the way from the earliest, upstream, as far upstream as you can go, bringing in raw materials, all the way through the supply chain downstream to the distributors and retailers. While supply chain has been a major use case for a decade, the tokenization of all of the assets associated with that supply chain is still new and in its infancy. We've got a decade or two ahead of us.
Yeah, just getting
Absolutely.
started. Well, I mean, you have some council members that are going to be, I would think they're very integrated into that, Mondelez being one. I want to bring that up in a minute, but I want to go back to Karate Combat because that was a good example of this. Here's Karate Combat right now, 63,000 active users for Hedera right now on Karate Combat. Was this a bit of surprise for you guys when you engaged with this particular platform of how popular this one has become?
You never know how these things are going to go. Karate Combat was a startup when we first partnered with them. They've had fantastic success. Of course, we're delighted in that. I got to attend my first Karate Combat fight back in at Consensus. I think that was in May this year, the end of May, early June. Yeah, down in Austin. And major personalities are now involved. Joe Rogan was ringside.
Yep.
And Dwayne Johnson participated by video, in this event. So yeah, we're fantastic.
I think they have something. Unique players right now, 60,000. So kind of an up only comparison here. I know they're doing one. I think they're doing one over at Bitcoin. I'm not sure, but that would be another event. They seem to kind of coalesce around what's happening in the crypto community itself. So kudos to them. Yeah, I want to get over to a little bit here. This was, of course, news on HBAR making into the German stock exchange. Solana already being looked at by Van Eck. The ETH ETF rolling out this week. We'll see a whole slew. What's the potential of a Hedera ETF?
Well, so that's a good question, and it probably depends on what markets we're talking about, right? So there have been rumors that I've heard and been involved in to some degree with various types of exchange traded products. The ones that I've been most familiar with have been in Europe, not in the US. Right. And of course, what we have here is Valor going to market with an ETP, an exchange traded product. In this case, it's great that we now have an ETP, and it sounds like it was the first of its kind, not just for Hedera, but for that exchange to have a crypto related product like that on the exchange. Of course, it just it broadens the potential base of investors that want to hold HBAR in this case. So it expands the market. It increases accessibility to the product. It also makes it possible to participate in holding HBAR in a regulated way, in a regulated context, because these ETPs are on exchanges that are regulated. So I think it's all good. It's all goodness, not just for our ecosystem, but for the crypto community as a whole, in the direction things seem to be going.
You look at regulation though, Mance, a lot of movement around stablecoins. You've got a handful in here, and you think about of companies that could play into this, because I'm thinking PayPal, simple enough, with their stablecoin. Why not potentially see something like a Google type stablecoin that could evolve, and with them being on your, your council, it would naturally, I would think, would be Hedera. So what are your thoughts
Yeah.
about that?
What's prevented this from going mainstream has been the regulatory environment.
Yep.
We have been talking to not just those that are on our council, but others that you've mentioned going back several years, right? And so this is not something that is new, that, at least the concept or the desire to do something like this. But the regulatory environment, especially in the United States, has been terrible for a long time. And these organizations, it seems to me that the bigger the organization, the more risk averse they are. And so it's all about getting the clarity and mainstreaming the tech. As you say, it looks good. I mean, things are moving in the right direction. What I would say is that there is a company in our ecosystem that is worth noting that's called BankSocial. So BankSocial is a credit union service provider. So they're focused on the credit union industry as opposed to banking, but they make it possible for credit unions to accept deposits that then in turn immediately go into a stable coin, which makes that cash regulated and insured by the credit union industry. And they've been working directly with the credit union regulator. So the regulator in that industry, the credit union industry, has been engaged and more forward leaning than perhaps the banking regulators. I think there is a way to demonstrate the value of this in a regulated context in the United States, and BankSocial is leading that charge.
Now, I'm looking here at their website right now, Empowering People. I noticed that they've got, built on Hedera right there. So kind of verifying what you're talking about here. Within this right now, is this a U.S. organization?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. They're based in Dallas.
Okay. All right. Interesting. This is the first I've heard of this one. I did see that though over on your alliance on the program you're doing here with Ripple with DREC. So interesting connection there.
They have a wallet, of course. I mean, if you're doing anything with crypto, then you end up needing a wallet. One of the things that worth noting, one of the reasons the regulators really liked this approach with BankSocial is because there's no centralized custody, right? Okay. There's no opportunity for the kinds of problems that we've seen in years past with centralized custody to happen. The end users, the depositors, have a wallet, and the wallet includes the DREC technology. It's self-custodied, and the regulators love that approach.
We got to get those guys on the show, learn a little bit more about what is happening there. That's always a big topic, is anybody that's really getting savvy in Web3 and or crypto in general, especially on the traditional banking rails out there. I want to go over to an upgrade you guys have going on right now, the 994 HIP. The main thing I saw was the interoperability you mentioned on supply chain, AI playing into this. What about interoperability between chains like Avalanche, Solana, looking at cross-chain? How would that have any application there?
I think that an interledger protocol is absolutely needed. It's one of those things that's going to cause the industry to mature, and the industry won't mature until we have some form of interledger protocol that everyone has agreed to use. It's got to be standardized, right? The funny thing is, if we go back to where sort of the modern era of computing started, online computing started, remember the old days of Prodigy and AOL and CompuServe, all of these walled gardens?
Yep.
And then we had the web come around in what I'll call Web 1.0 with the promise of decentralization of all that and pulling down those walls from those walled gardens. Then we went to Web 2.0, where the walls came back up around some of the major platforms that exist out there. I think of the social platforms in particular, but it's not restricted to them. Then Web 3 with the promise of decentralization. It's not the reality. Web 3's promise is not reality, because we end up in a situation that's very analogous to the prodigies and the CompuServes of 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And that's not going to be resolved until there is an interledger protocol. And I think that there are ways that you can do that way more efficiently than what we currently, if you think about what it means to have an interledger protocol, to put it simply, anyone should be able to take the assets that exist on one chain, all of their tokens, whatever type of token that might be, and seamlessly and quickly, securely, and for almost no cost, move it to any other chain of their choice.
Yeah.
Right? Well, the approaches that we have today with the bridges and the need for these third-party validators in between the chains to make sure everything is working, it's the exact wrong approach.
Yeah.
It's a technical approach. And we do have designs for how to resolve these issues. It's not something that we've rolled out, but I think it's, like everything else that we've done, we've taken a step back, looked at major problems with the industry, designed the tech to address those problems, and then as the industry matures and as we get to it, we roll out those solutions. And we're hoping, frankly, to leverage the Hedera Alliance, designed to solve one problem, leverage that alliance in the future to resolve this larger problem of ILP and make it all less expensive, make it cheap, quick, seamless, and secure. There are ways to do that.
I want to get into meme coins. We'll kind of wrap up here, but I want to get into meme coins and potential NFT projects. We haven't seen a lot of meme coins that have rolled out. There's been a meme coin craze on just about every chain out there, whether you look at Base, what's going on with on-chain Summer. Solana has exploded onto the scene with their Phantom Wallet and all the infrastructure we saw with meme coins there. And then Avalanche has been very active on that. All right, I'm just going to throw an idea out there to you guys. I'm looking at Mondelez. These guys are pretty much the titans of snacks, okay? Our team was kind of going through what the potential is here, and I focused in, we looked at this one right here, Sour Patch. So you've got Sour Patch Kids now jumping into things like Roblox, etc. And all of this playing into things they're doing. Here's some of the collectibles they've got, or I guess they call them UGC Limiteds, but this is available over on Roblox. Very intriguing that a company like Mondelez is looking forward in this fashion. And I've already seen this from McDonald's. We're obviously seeing it on major brands like Nike. Mondelez now has a handful of brands that could match up pretty nicely here to Web3. Have you guys had any discussion with Mondelez as they are on your council about these kinds of strategies?
Absolutely. I mean, the simple answer is not going to be a satisfying answer, but the simple answer is yes. And when they joined the council, it wasn't because they were wanting to explore what might be done. It's because they had specific ideas about what they wanted to do. And by the way, that's a general statement for all new council members, right? We're at a point now in the maturity of the project where if there is a council member that is added to the project, it's because there have been ongoing conversations about their specific use case and how they want to use Hedera. Mm-hmm. And because they want to use Hedera, there's interest in also participating in the governance of Hedera. It's not the case most of the time. It's not the case that we can go into any detail about what those use cases are outside of what was already, sort of publicly announced in a press release. But it is the case that these companies that are joining us today, including Mondelez, have very specific ideas about how they can use the platform. And for that reason, they want to be a part of its governance.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Mance Harmon, it's always good chatting with you, catching up with what's going on in Hedera. Thanks so much for stopping in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
All right. Listen, if you guys are not part of our Diamond Circle, that's our own internal group, and it is a large group that you can be a part of. We have a great community, online community that you guys can participate in, as well as a variety of content that makes it out into the Diamond Circle that doesn't come here to YouTube. So make sure and subscribe to that. All you have to do is hit the link down below. Of course, if you want to catch me out there on X, it's @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.